What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today, we are continuing our PostgreSQL series, and we are going to be learning all about joins. Now, joins are incredibly important, and I will just be upfront with you. This was something that I got so confused on, and I had such a tough time learning it when I first started learning SQL. And in fact, in an interview for a data analyst job, I got asked about joins, and I completely butchered it, and I somehow still got that job, but I remember it so clearly, and I was so embarrassed that I didn't know joins really well. And so I'm going to explain it to you like how I wish someone would have explained it to me many years ago. And I'm going to make it really simple. And by the end of this, you are going to know joins like the back of your hand. Now, all joins are joining one table to another table. That's it. So we're combining data from this table with maybe data from another table, and we're getting it in one output. And that is just an amazingly powerful thing to do. Now, before we do that, let's look at this right here. Now, you may have seen something like this, or you may not. These are kind of like the building blocks of joins. If you know how to do these joins, you are set. We're not going to go into things like self joins or cross joins or things like that because there are very few use cases for actually doing that. We're going to focus on the big ones. Let's start with the one you're going to use, I don't know, maybe 80% of the time, 75% of the time. It's called an inner join. And these two circles represent our tables. So on the left-hand side, we have our first table. On the right-hand side, we have our right table. You'll also notice something called a left join, where it's mostly our left table, and a right join, mostly on our right table. But with our inner join, we're only going to be returning in the output this blue shaded area. So when we're tying these tables together, we have to specify where one column is the same as another column. And if a value in both of those columns are the same, let's just say there's 1, 2, 3 over here on the left table, and there's 1 and 2 over here on the right table, then we're only going to return 1 and 2 because that's the same. Now, with a left join, we're going to return everything from the left table, but only things that match. If it doesn't match, we don't want it. It's the opposite for the right. So everything in the right and things that match, but not if they don't match. A full outer join is just let's return everything, whether there's a match or there's no match. Now, I'm really briefly touching on this because I like to get hands-on. I don't want to look at diagrams all day. So let's get rid of this, and we're going to start with our inner join because I think it's the easiest to see. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start with this character info table. Now, we're going to join this to our planets table. So let's actually pull this up. We'll say select everything from planets. And I need to spell this right. Now, let's run this. And let's look at our table. We have planet ID, planet name, and we have the region that they are located. Now, this planet ID right here, this is a very important column. This is what's called our primary key. We even have a PK right here. Primary key means that it's not going to be repeated. This primary key is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but you won't see 7, 7, 6, 3, 2. But if we come over here, remember planet ID primary key. If we come over to the character info, we also have a planet ID, and that's going to be the column that we tied together. But you'll notice these have duplicates. There's a 1 here, there's a 1 down here, there's a 3 here, there's a 3 up here. This is what's called a foreign key. So our primary key can't be duplicated in the planets table, but in the character info table, we want it to be duplicated because there might be a ton of people from one planet. The thing about this, though, is in this table, I only see this planet ID. I don't actually know what the planet name is. So I want to tie this table to this table, and then I want to be able to add that column in over here to show us what planet this actually is, because the number doesn't really help me. It's the text or the string that's actually useful. So let's bring this right down here, and let's see how we can do an inner join. So I'm going to bring that down a little bit. All I'm going to do is I'm going to come right down here. I'm going to say inner join. I'm doing it in all caps. You don't have to. And then I'm going to specify what table we're joining on. So we're going to say planets. Now, this is not enough. What we need to do is specify what columns we're joining on. So let's go down and hit tab. So we're going to tell it what columns we want. Now, it's planet ID underscore ID is equal to planet underscore ID. Now, this isn't enough because this is kind of vague, right? Let's just try to run this and see what happens. It's going to say column reference planet ID is ambiguous. That's the term that it's going to give us because it doesn't know what table it is for each column. Is this planet ID from the planets table or is it from the character info table? It doesn't know. So we actually have to specify by saying character info dot and then planets dot. That means we're taking the character info planet ID and we're saying that's equal to the planets dot planet ID. Now, if we run this, let's go ahead and execute the script. Now we are going to get an output. You'll notice really quickly though, we only have 11 rows in our output because one of the people earlier on did not have a planet ID. Remember, inner joins are only going to give us an output if they find a match. So if we scroll back up here and we looked at our character info, Luke Skywalker, he has no planet ID. And so when we join these together, and let's go like this, when we join these together, you will not see Luke there because he doesn't have a planet. He doesn't have one where they match. But here's our columns right over here. We have planet ID, planet name, and the region. Now this is just a lot of data and I don't want all this. Let's come back here. We're going to say character underscore name. We'll do planet underscore ID and we just want the planet underscore name. Now let's try to run this. We're going to get an error, but let's try to run this. And again, it's going to say it's ambiguous. That's because for this planet ID up here, we again have to specify which one we're pulling from. Now, for an inner join, since they have to have a match, it does not matter. So let's put character info dot planet ID. And let's run this. And now in our output, we have character name, planet ID, and that planet name. Now, here's what I typically do. And I do this basically every time I do a join. I'm going to use an alias here. So I'm going to say CI for character info and just P for planets. And I can put it right here. Because I don't want to write out character info. It's just so long. So I'm going to say CI. I can come in here, CI, and then for planets, I'll put P. This is what you're going to see in the vast majority of people who write SQL and do joins. This is how they're going to write it. So I want to show this to you because this is most likely how you'll see experienced people writing SQL. This is how they're going to do their joins. So I want to show that to you. They're going to use an alias right here so they don't have to write out the entire thing and it just gets really bulky and, it takes up a lot of space. So this will do the exact same thing and will give us the exact same output. Now let's copy this entire thing and we're just going to come right down here because we're going to change this from an inner join to a left join. Now you'll remember the left join is going to take everything from this left-hand table and everything that has the same, but if there is no match, it's just going to leave out that data. So everything from the left table. Now what does our left table actually mean? Our left table means the one above, the highest, the first one. That's our left table. The right table is going to be the second table that we specify. So we're going to take everything from character info, and remember, we don't have Luke in here, but we're going to take everything from our character info and join it to planets and take all the matches from the planets. So let's go ahead and run this. And now you'll see that we have Luke Skywalker here. He doesn't have a planet ID. He doesn't have a planet name. He's still in the output. So he's still going to be in our output even though there is no match. Now, what if we come up here and do a right join? So now we're doing the opposite. We're taking everything from the right-hand table, even if there's not a match. And if there is no match, we're just leaving it blank. All right, so it's the exact opposite of a left. When we run this, we are now going to get a blank character name and a blank planet ID for Mustafar, because Mustafar did not have a match. Now, the reason for this null right here is because we're pulling it from, you guessed it, the character info table. Let's change this to be P for planet, because Mustafar is in our planet ID table, but it's not pulling in the right planet ID. So now let's run this. And now you can see that planet ID right here is 7. We had it in our planets table. We just were pulling the wrong planet ID. That is something to be aware of when you're running these joins. You have to specify what table you're pulling the data from. That is very important. Lastly, let's take a look at our full outer join. This bad boy, it just takes everything. It does not matter if there is nothing that in common with either table. It does not matter. We're just going to do a full outer join. Let's go ahead and run this. And now we're just getting everything. We have Luke Skywalker here. He has no planet ID. He has no planet name. And we have Mustafar down here. And of course, nobody actually has that planet. Nobody's on this planet, but it's still in our output. This is kind of like a last resort type one where you're like, is there actually anything in here? Let me just run this. And then sometimes you can filter it down. Maybe you do need a left join. Maybe you need an inner join. Just depends on what you need. Now, just from my experience, I have almost never used a right join in my real work. I've almost always used a left join. And the reason for that is they're basically the same thing but opposite. And the left join, at least in my brain, makes a lot more sense because you're taking everything from this first table, which tends to be the more important table. This is like the table you have most of your data and you're like, oh, I need to pull in a little bit of data from here. Let me just do a left join because I just want to pull in everything from this and a little bit of data from my right table. That's typically how my mind works. And that's how most people I've worked with, that's what they do as well. They do left joins instead of right joins. There's a ton of memes online about, the right join just being neglected because nobody uses it. So it's not just me. Hopefully by now you're thinking, wow, I've got this. This is super easy. I'm nailing this. There is one more piece of the puzzle, and that is the fact that you can join multiple tables together. And we're going to do this by just doing inner joins. So I'm going to say inner join. We can come down here and we can do another inner join. And we could just keep doing this forever and ever and ever. Now, really quick, let's come back up. Let's look at our character info. We're also going to look at our ships. So now I'm just going to do our ships right here. Notice we have a ship ID. Okay, so if we come right here and run this, we have our ship ID. Now we can see what ship they actually have. We have their ship name and their ship type. And we want to pull this data into our query as well. So let's come down here. Let's run this just so we can get it. Actually, we need to not include that last inner join because we haven't done that yet. We just want our output right here. Now we're going to come here. We're going to join this on ships. And we're just going to call that S. So now we're going to say on, that's our keyword. We're going to say on ci.ships_ID is equal to, then we do s.ships_ID. Now we also want this in our output. So we'll come right up here and we'll do s.ships_ID. And I'm forgetting what that column name was. Let's go look really quick. I think it's ship name. So we want that ship name. So we'll come right here and we'll say ship_name. Now this ship name doesn't need an alias before it because the only table that it's in is in the ships. So there isn't any ambiguity. It doesn't have that confusion of where to look like it would ships ID. But now we can run this and it's actually ship ID. That's my fault. At least it tells us, right? It gives us the output or gives us the error message. Let's go ahead and run this. All right, guys, just skip this part. I'm looking like an absolute fool over here. All right, let's run this. I forgot to change it up here in the ship ID. You know what? Listen, this happens. I'm glad you're seeing this. I'm embarrassed, but now you feel better about yourself, and that's what really matters. Anyways, now we have our ship ID here, and we have our ship name. Now we're using inner joins, and this is important because we only have 8 rows in our output. If we go back up, and let's go to our character info, the reason for this is because in our ship ID, we have some nulls here. We have some people who just don't have ships. Yoda doesn't have a ship. Darth Maul, I think he actually did have a ship, but I don't think we have his ship ID for whatever reason. And Jar Jar Binks, no, do not give that guy a ship. So when we come back down here, that's why we are missing that data. We just don't have anything. Now, if we want to, we can change it to this. So we can say full outer join just on this join. And if we do that, let's come right up here. Now we're going to see who doesn't have that. We can see Darth Maul, Jar Jar Binks, and Yoda. They don't have that, and so therefore they don't have a ship name. These are all important things to consider. This is kind of the tricky part of using joins, is knowing what's going to be in your output. I typically start with an inner join just as a default. I want to see what is matching in these IDs across both tables. And then if I'm curious, I'll use a left join or I'll use a full outer join and I'll start digging into the data. But I typically start with an inner join. I hope all of this makes perfect sense. I want you to mess around with this, try it out, because genuinely, once you get in here and you start writing these queries and you start kind of testing them out yourselves, it's going to make a lot of sense. And so hopefully this is a good starting place for you to really understand joins well. And if you did learn something in this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.